So to start this off, when we talk about orthogonal views, we say that the reason we use orthogonal views is to be able to see structures with as little of a superimposition as possible. So we talk about two primary views. We talk about the dorsal medial plantar lateral, which I've got listed up top, and the dorsal lateral plantar medial that I've got listed below. The important things to understand about these is what these structures will be highlighted when you're using these views. So when we look at the dorsal medial plantar lateral right here, what we see is that it should be highlighting the dorsal and lateral surfaces of certain things while also highlighting the medial plantar surfaces. So if you were going to use a dorsal medial plantar lateral, you would be doing so if you needed to highlight structures on the dorsal lateral side and the medial plantar side. Alternatively, if you needed to find something that was on the lateral plantar or the dorsal medial, you would use the dorsal lateral plantar medial. So by knowing what structures are highlighted by these views, you can work your way through to figure out what structures and what view you need to use to highlight certain structures to be able to view them on your radiographs. So for example, let's start off with highlighting metacarpal 2. So with metacarpal 2, the first step that we need to know is where is metacarpal 2? Is it located on the lateral, medial, plantar, or dorsal aspect? So we know that metacarpal 2 should be, by our anatomy, placed upon the plantar and medial surface of the limb. So because of the plantar and medial surface, that means that if we were going to do a radiograph, we want a radiograph that highlights the plantar and medial surface of the bone. So going back to what we know originally, which one of these highlights the medial plantar surface of the bone? Well, by that institution, we know that the dorsal medial plantar lateral highlights the medial and the plantar aspect and the dorsal and lateral aspect. Well, we said we needed to know the medial and plantar aspect, which is what that would use. So in order to highlight metacarpal 2 to see it on radiographs, you would use a dorsal medial plantar lateral. Alternatively, if we were trying to figure out what we need to use to see the accessory bone, we need to start with where the accessory bone is located on the body. The accessory bone should be located on the lateral side and the palmar surface, hence the palmar lateral. So we go back between our views and we say which structures or which view would highlight the palmar lateral. And with that institution, we notice that the DL-PMO highlights the plantar lateral or lateral plantar, depending on which way you want to read that. By that, we should be using a DL-PMO to highlight the accessory carpal bone if that's what we think is broken. Alternatively, if we are looking at a structure and we could not determine which structure or view was used, we can work our way back through this method to get back to this method. So for example, if we saw that the accessory carpal bone was highlighted, we know that through our anatomy, the accessory carpal bone is on the plantar lateral side. We would just work our way back through to say, okay, which one of these two highlights the plantar and lateral side? Again, that's the DLPMO. So that's kind of the basic way that I've been using to work through these questions, is figure out what I want to highlight or what is highlighted, and then use these naming schemes to figure out which one was likely used based on understanding that the dorsal medial plantar lateral highlights the dorsal lateral and the medial plantar, and that the dorsal lateral plantar medial highlights the dorsal medial and the lateral plantar. I hope this helps.